Hey everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. If you haven't already, please be sure to check us out on social media. We're available on all platforms, so just head over, search Country Music Made Me, and give us a follow. You can also visit us at countrymusicmademe.com to sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive content. On today's episode, we're excited to be welcomed by Pillbox Patti, also known as hit songwriter Nicolette Hayford. We had a great time talking about her journey through songwriting and the evolution into Pillbox Patti, which she introduced earlier this year. She is set to release her debut project in October, so please enjoy our conversation with Pillbox Patti. Your dad is a musician, and he is one who sort of got you into it. But before you maybe realized what he did as a profession and started to get into music, what did that upbringing look like in Florida?
My parents got divorced when I was super young. So my mom went and lived with who was my stepdad, ex-stepdad now.
Okay.
In a really small town. So we lived in Gainesville at the time, and then they lived in Stark, which is a really small one stoplight. There is some charming sides to it, but not the sides I lived in.
Right.
Not the side that I got to see. It's a lot of poverty, it's a lot of drugs, it's a lot of, it was kind of a really tumultuous, sometimes violent household. And so I was split between that and then going back and forth to my dad's. And so that was like my introduction to like country and country music, and living in the country. And it definitely wasn't like the sort of like charming white picket fence, mama's frying chicken kind of life for me. So it was important for me to be able to make music that reflected like the country that I knew and that I, came up in.
Right. And so did your dad stay in Gainesville during that time?
That was when I was like younger. Then we moved, I think probably like sixth grade. Then I moved down. We lived in Port Charlotte, Florida, which is like near like Fort Myers area.
Okay.
And so I was there for a few years, and then my sophomore year, end of my sophomore year, I moved to Stark. My mom and my stepdad had gotten sober, and things were like kind of steady there for a minute. And so I went and lived there, and then that quickly went to hell. But so I ended up moving back there and finishing high school there, and living in Stark for quite a while before then I moved back to South Beach.
Right. So during that time when you're splitting time between your mom and your dad, were you almost living two lives because of how different the environments were?
Yeah, I was. And my dad was gone working all the time. So I, sometimes one of my grandmothers would come stay with me. Sometimes my sister would just be there. Sometimes nobody would be there with us. So there wasn't a whole lot of like structure as far as, like just having like parental stuff. So it was like a lot of like, it was crazy over here. And then it was crazy in both. It was two different kinds of crazy, but yeah,
Right.
It was definitely, it was two different kinds of crazy.
Right. And throughout that time, was there a point where music sort of became a crutch? Music became something that was normal? It didn't change when you were moving from place to place?
Yeah, because when my dad would be home for like the stretches that he was home, he was always playing piano, and I was sitting down at that piano a lot when my dad wasn't there. So then when he would come back, sometimes I would play something that I was kind of like working on, or I would try to be learning a song. And my dad was also putting together these like and helping be a part of this thing called the Durango Songwriters Expo. So I would go to those sometimes, and I was really secretly writing actual songs by myself that took me a really long time to even like share with my dad. But I was really kind of hiding away in my room and doing a lot of that. But I was around and, all these amazing like songwriters. And I was like really shy and really like private about what I was doing, because I was just like, man, they're really good. And I'm like, I was terrified to share anything I was doing for a long time. And I was
Right.
right, by the way, because those, early things are never the things you should share.
No, exactly, exactly. And was your dad a songwriter, or was he more on the business side of music? What exactly was his job while you were growing up?
I mean, younger, when my dad was younger, he played in bands and he wrote songs and he spent some time in LA, and then it kind of transitioned into, I mean, he had kids and life just kind of happened. And then my dad has always been in like marketing, and it's hard to even explain what my dad even does. For we used to joke that he was in the mafia, because I was like, what do you even do? And he says just a bunch of like computer stuff, marketing stuff, writing, all kinds of content like for about music stuff. So he's always had one foot in music somehow. And then he got really involved in the Durango Songwriters Expo, and that was kind of like, aside from his like career, he was also doing that. So
Okay. And so did he direct you towards music? Was he someone who, because he did it, he sort of thought that maybe he could help guide you in that direction? Or were you very much, like you say, doing it on your own, and he was doing his own thing and the two worlds didn't really collide?
no, my dad helped me a lot. I mean, taking me to those expos before I even like came as a real attendee, with music that I was getting critiqued or performing. I went to those things and I just like sat in those listening sessions and I like took notes kind of.
Okay.
So he did, that was really crucial, because I met so many people that ended up being really important to my career in Nashville, like Shannon Hatch and Rob Hatch and Julie Griffith and all these people that I learned from. And now, those people have ended up being really important to me. And when I finally did move to Nashville several years later, but
Yeah.
it's amazing that my CSAC rep has known me since I was 18. I mean,
Oh,
we haven't
wow.
really, yeah.
And so what age was it where you caught that bug and you started writing and you started seeing it as something that maybe you were good at?
Probably around, I mean, I was doing like, I mean, I started writing and stuff like really young, but I got the confidence to like do it in front of people and share probably like 18, 19. I was a little more confident. I really started like playing out and doing things and like sharing and going to those things as like an artist or a writer, probably when I was 19 or 20.
Okay. And during that time, like, did you have an artist mindset, or was it very much a songwriter and just sort of when you had the chance sharing the songs that you had written?
I had an artist mindset. And I remember performing at those expos when I like finally got to the point where I was performing on the showcase, which is like a big deal.
Okay.
It's really like, that group is really special because it's sort of like this summer camp of people that we've all known each other and we've all seen each other come up. And some of those people are in Nashville now and my good friends, and we share that like the Durango bond. But I remember like the first two times I showcased, and people would say, oh my God, your performance was amazing. And I love your voice is so awesome. I love your voice. But they didn't say, I loved that song. And so
Okay.
I was like, oh, I need to write amazing songs. So then my whole like perspective kind of shifted, and I really went all into just learning how to be a really great songwriter, as good of a songwriter as I can be.
And what did that look like when you dove into it? And I mean, before you moved to Nashville, what did becoming a really good songwriter look like?
I studied writers. I
Oh,
studied
okay.
records. I figured anyway, personally, I broke down, songs of like, why is that line awesome? Is it how they're singing it? Is it that they're throwing it away? Is it how they said it? And I just
Right.
kind of, when a song, was a song I was really into, I would dissect it, and then once you get onto that, and then it's like the rabbit hole of like, who wrote it? And then what else do they write? What else do I not know about it? And so it just kind of went from there. And I really just got into it. I mean, I took it seriously, like it was school.
Right. And did you ever think about going to school for it? Was there ever any thought of going to college or university to study songwriting?
No. Um, I didn't want to go into school. My like high school, middle school was such like a stressful anxiety experience for me because everything was just kind of chaotic, that as soon as I was done with that, I just didn't want to, I was done with school. I was in the school of life after that.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, I can't, this is so no, I never even considered it.
Right. And so there was one 4th of July, I believe, that you packed up your Kia and you said peace out and you headed to Nashville. Now, what year was that?
Oh man, that had to have been 2008, maybe
Okay.
7. I don't know. I'd have to look. I'm not sure on the exact year, honestly, because
Right.
I'm like, have I been here? How long have I been here?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all gone fast, but it was probably around then.
What was that feeling like as you drove away from home on this new adventure? Like, was it a very spur of the moment thing, or when did the thought of Nashville start to creep into your mind?
It had been there for a while. I was working on music with a guy in Nashville or in Jacksonville Beach. And I knew it was weird. It was like this feeling kind of set in with me that I knew I needed to be in Nashville. I didn't know like really what that looked like, but I knew I needed to be there. And my dad at this point had moved to Nashville.
Okay.
And I just knew I was supposed to be there. And when you're young and I'm living in a beach town and like I had a serious boyfriend at the time, and I was like, man, if I don't go, and I was slowly figuring out, I mean, he's a great guy, but it was never going to be about me. He was a surfer. I mean, he wasn't going to move to Nashville probably, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And, and I was like, man, this is going to be, if I stick it out with him, I'm never going to do this. And I really had to set a hard date because in Jacksonville Beach, the most fun holiday is 4th of July because all your friends, you're all on bikes and you're driving through there and it's really magical. And like 4 days after that is my birthday, the 8th.
Oh,
So
okay.
I knew if I really wanted to leave, I knew that I had to leave on the most fun day, like just to like prove to myself that I was really going to go. Because if I stayed for 4th of July, then I would have been like, well, I want to stay for my birthday,
Right. Yeah.
and then it would just been one of those things I never would have gotten out. So I made it a point to leave on the 4th of July. I mean, there's fireworks in the background and like, it was really kind of poetic and cool. But I knew I was serious if I would leave then.
And so when you got to Nashville, did you stay with your dad? Was that
Yeah.
like a way to sort of get your footing when you got there and you didn't just have to dive in all by yourself?
Yeah. That definitely helped. And I kind of got introduced to some people like Amanda Williams. And I was in like these little circles of people that I got to like learn from, people that my dad knew. And I kind of got into it that way. And then, you just meet people. It's so weird how full circle Nashville can be. Like the first round and like the first friends I made were this group of people playing at this place called Elm Hill Tavern. And I met through those people, Aaron Ratier, who's now like one of my dear friends and constant collaborator. And we lost touch. I'd seen him like briefly a few times through that, and that was years ago. And then now it was like we ran into each other. Like I think we were at some Warner thing or something. I don't know, years and years later. And then we
Oh,
were just like,
okay.
we got to get back to writing. And it was really cool that that was just somebody that I knew from the very like first year that I lived in Nashville.
Right. And now you talked about high school and that being an anxiety filled event, but then you get to Nashville and it kind of feels like maybe off the start that can feel like high school because of the cliques and the sort of hierarchy within it. And so, was there that feeling when you first arrived of anxiety and what am I doing and who are my people?
Not initially, because what's funny about Nashville, and at least in my experience, is you don't realize how far away you are from it or were from it until you're in there. It's like a spider web, it's like there's stuff going on and all the things, and you're really trying to get here. But when you're starting it, like we know that there's all these awesome like people going on, like, and things are happening, but we're in our like little group of people. So it's like you really don't realize how far away you are from like making anything happen.
Right.
So I didn't really like the clicky thing didn't really like occur to me. It was just like you just meet more people and then you write with those people. Nashville's been really like kind of accepting to me. I didn't really have any of that. And honestly, it felt better than high school because nobody's from Nashville, really,
Right.
so
Yeah.
everybody's there trying to make friends and meet people. We're all lost. So,
Now, within your circle, two of the people that it appears were very important for this journey, Ashley McBryde, definitely, and then John Pardi, who I believe you were roommates with. So you mentioned Elm Hill Tavern, and I also heard you talk about in another interview the Rusty Nail,
yeah.
which were important venues, especially for connecting with Ashley McBryde. And so talk about that moment of your career and starting to make connections with these artists who we know about now, but back then they were just starting out, just like you were. And so how important were those connections back then?
Man, they were everything. I mean, it turns out we Ashley was Ashley had been playing a lot of shows around and had been doing her thing, but she at that time at Rusty Nail when we met, she didn't have none of us had like publishing deals yet or any of that. We just became like friends. And then I think we got deals and we were still like buds. And then we're like, man, why don't we ever write? And then finally we did. But we were friends for years before we ever wrote, which is we always laugh about. But that once we did it, once we wanted to do it all the time. And that was really cool because we got to really be like, we have really been in it from the beginning with each other. And that's really special. And John, I think I got set up to go out on the road with him when he was first starting out. Head Over Boots hadn't even happened. And that was a wild time. And it was so much fun. And we just became instant friends. Like it was just a weird thing. Like it felt like a big brother on it, like right away, And then we hung out after that. It was crazy. We had the whole thing. We met Bob Kid Rock at the same time because right when I got home from that, Bob was in this little restaurant I worked at that I just went to eat crawfish on Memorial Day. And he's like, man, this is when Head Over Boots came out too. And
Oh,
he was
okay.
like, and me and Ashley had gone on the road with John and I was just out with Ashley writing and hanging. And we'd come back from that. And Kid Rock is like, man, who is this Head Over Boots guy? Like, this is awesome. I love this song. I was like, John, of all the people he could have said, like, I knew him. You know what I mean? I was like, I just got off the road with him like 4 hours ago. And he's like, come over. So we go over there. And then we had it was just such a funny, like fun, wild start to a friendship that was really special to us. And then probably like a little less than a year after that, I ended up moving in with John and I lived with him for, I don't know, 2 years maybe.
Okay. And what's it like within this career to witness that rise for both Ashley and John and just being there from the beginning and just see them get to where they are today?
I mean, it's really sweet and special in this. I mean, when these are your friends and you're watching every step of the way, and like you're seeing like bit by bit, like little dreams come true. But it's also, you know, an awesome opportunity that I got to take notes. You know, I mean, there's stuff that I'm like, oh, I see how stressful this part is, how like, you
Right.
know what I mean? How
Yeah.
like not cool this stuff is, how like not. So I had a really like realistic and close view on like what being an artist is really like. And
Right.
that has really come in handy. And I'm really grateful for that. And also when you know, they're there for me when I'm like, I'm scared about this, or I have anxiety about this, or I feel weird about this, you know, and they're like, oh no, this is, you know, it's just awesome to have those friends that now they're like, come on.
Right. Yeah. And as you started writing with Ashley, those were some of your first big breaks. Now, you talk about sort of witnessing their rise, but as a songwriter for you, as you begin songwriting and Ashley releases her album, I think Girl Going Nowhere in 2018 was sort of the first big one for you. And so when that stuff started hitting, what did that mean for you personally as a songwriter and starting to see your stuff get out there?
That was like the okay, like it's got real moment. You know, it was
Right.
like
Yeah.
this is happening. Like you know, you fight for so long to get like some kind of like clout or credit so that you for yourself feel like you're actually a real writer and you're really doing it. You know what I mean? Because it's such a weird job and a weird thing to do. And there's so many things have to work out and line up for those things like that to land. And that moment I was like, okay, like you did something, you're a real writer. And now how do we like, what now? What else can we do? You know, I mean,
Right. Yeah.
it's like, oh, those, I think for every writer, those, I think there's maybe only a few exceptions, but those first like breaks are like, whoo, you can breathe, you know, you're like, okay, all right, this is it might is gonna be okay. There's a good chance it's gonna be okay.
You talked about it being around 2007, 2008 that you took off for Nashville. So 2018 is when Ashley released that album. And so within those 10 or so years, was there ever a thought within your mind of this isn't going to work out? What am I doing? Or because you were able to surround yourself with such great people, did that thought never even enter your mind over those years?
Oh, I mean, I would think that anybody in this business, I mean, I knew I couldn't do anything else because if I could, I would. You know, I had jobs, I've done all kinds of jobs, and I knew that the only one I wanted to do was, you know, to be a writer and artist. But you definitely, man, when you're grinding it out and I'm working at a restaurant and I'm writing 5 days a week and I'm leaving a write and then I'm going to, you know, work in a restaurant and then I come back like I'm exhausted and I'm broke. And there was definitely some moments where I'm like, what if this doesn't work? So there's definitely some moments, you know, after, you know, 2 15-hour shifts or whatever. I'm like, my God, is this going to be my life forever? Right. But yeah, I definitely had those moments, you know. I expect to have more of those, you know. That's just kind of part of this. A dream is a nightmare sometimes. Scary, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff Carlton, I believe, is someone who was influential in your journey. He passed away, I think, in 2018. And I just wanted to ask about him and what he did mean for your journey.
Oh man. I was in a deal that my first publishing deal that was really stifling and not was not the right thing for me to be in. I was really unhappy. I felt very like just kind of suffocated. And he was the first person that was like an outside influence that like championed me. And he just, I mean, he's like, hey, we got to talk about like your deal, about your writing. You're not getting in like rooms that I really feel like you should be in. Like these songs are really good. And He really fanned the flame when it needed it most. And he introduced me to Connie. I mean, he introduced me to Brandy. I mean, he was like definitely a major, like he created a massive shift in my career for sure.
Right. And in 2019, you signed with Riverhouse and Smack Songs. Now, was that sort of your first official publishing deal next to that one you just talked about?
I mean, that other one was very official, but it was very not good.
Right.
And so yeah, I felt like, oh, this is like this is what it's like, what it's supposed to be like, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, in that sense, it did feel like my first like actual thing, you know, like I was like, wow, that other stuff was like Clown Town, but this is this is legit. So yeah, it definitely did feel like that.
That's awesome. And so let's move on to 2020. Now, when did the thought start to enter your mind of wanting to step over to that artist side and do something on your own?
I think I really, that collection of songs is what started me really wanting to go all the way, because really I was making like a songwriter record, um because those songs really just deserved a home. And sometimes, you know, when songs aren't cut that you just really like love and um just need them to live somewhere, that was really, that was less about me and more about those songs. But what did happen was me writing Pillbox Patti at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I ended up putting that on the record and calling my record that. And that was the moment I was like, no, Patti's going to be the thing. So I
Okay.
had like I had met myself and introduced myself all in that project that was really about giving those songs a home. So that was an important project and really did like kind of start the whole transition.
Okay. So when you released that first EP in 2020, did you have a thought, like when you were creating that project? Was it like, okay, I want to be an artist, or was it more just here's some songs that I like, I'm going to put them out, but then I'm going to move back to songwriting after that?
Mostly, I mean, I set out to be making a songwriter record, kind of in the same way, you know, a lot of us are artists, same way that when Jeff Hyde makes a record and, you know, cuts happen off of that and that kind of
Right.
thing, like
Yeah.
artist, but it's also like a tool, you know.
Okay.
um and you just need to do those songs, and I felt that way about those songs. But the Patty thing was like, I knew after I wrote Patty that I was that really started it, because then I realized doing that project made me realize that I needed to separate my writer career from my artist career.
Right. And what was that feeling like? Because as I did my research and as I listened to other interviews, it feels like you're someone who doesn't necessarily enjoy the spotlight. And I think I heard you talk about not necessarily enjoying songwriter rounds and performing and being in front of people. And so when the idea came up to actually launch this as Pillbox Patti and actually launch an artist career, what was the original feeling within your heart and within your soul?
You know, it honestly, that's how I knew that the fear of like writer rounds and all that. I realized it was because those songs, you know, that I write for other people, they don't belong to me. I didn't write them for me. I wrote them for them. That's Ashley's song, or, you know, whoever's song, you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
so it always made me feel like I wasn't being like an artist. I was just being like a songwriter. So um and that always like kind of weirded me out, because I'm like, I'm not gonna, you want me to sing freaking any song that Ashley McBryde has cut? Like, have you heard her sing? Like, I
Right.
want to do that, you know. Like, I mean, so the Patty thing, I made the music that I really wanted to make that were my stories, that sonically was what I would do. That kind of went away. I still get performance anxiety because I do, like, I feel like that's pretty normal. I don't know. I mean, it is to me anyway. I mean, that's a big thing you're about to do. Anything could happen, you know?
Yeah.
So I still have that. But the music is so important and the process was so magical. And I owe it to my writers to get over myself and my fear and go do the thing, you know. I owe everybody that, you know, and I owe myself that.
And having the opportunity to step into the Pillbox Patti persona as you go on stage, has that helped to make you more comfortable and be able to sort of be within that and not have to maybe focus so much on yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's very about me because the music is really personal, but it's sort of like, you know, Beyonce is Sasha Fierce before she
Right.
goes out there. It's sort of like that. Yeah, it does help, and it's nice that it's a hat I can take off, you know, and so that, and I want to do that because my writing career is also very important to me, but I can't go in to write for other people as the artist. You know, it allows me like the flexibility of going back when it's time to, you know, write for Ashley's record or whatever, and give my whole writing self to her artistry, you know. So yeah, I mean, it definitely gives me something I can step into, and it helps, and it's so much fun. And I feel like the most me, it's like the most, you know, the most like me that I didn't know that I was even capable of doing. So it definitely gives me like some confidence and, you know, courage.
Yeah, how cool is that after being in town for so long and writing for others and writing songs for others to finally find yourself within your songs?
This whole like little ride that I just got on is the most magical experience I've ever had. I mean, I didn't even know, like every time I do something or whatever, you know, and I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe like we wrote these songs and we're doing all these things that we talked about and that's happening. And so it's like, it's so, I'm happier and like the best version of me that I've ever met. And that is really awesome. Like it's a really, really, really cool feeling.
That's awesome. And now in the creation of this music, I saw that the first 3 singles that you have released, they have quite a few writers on each song. I think there's like between 5 and 8 songwriters on each song. And so how important is that when you're crafting this music to have a large community around it?
I mean, to me, the thing is um every single one of those all those people that are on it are very capable and have and will write many songs alone by themselves. But it was really important for me to get out of the show up at 11 o'clock on a schedule thing, because I think there's something that happens, you know, we all have an internal list. We all have like lives, you know, it's like you're either thinking about how you got to leave or you got to let a dog out or you got to feed your kids or whatever is going on with you. And just a really big energy person. I know that a high vibration is what you need to get to the ether, you know, that's what you're trying to get to. And this group of people gets us there, you know, and it's the most like freeing, like there's no rules and we're working so hard we don't even realize how long we're writing, and it's just free flowing creativity, and that's a really magical way to write, coming from like a very organized way to write. And that process is just like, you know, I mean, if it was 10 people that like we all had this kind of thing together, then there'd be 10.
And for Ashley, do you know what her feelings are within this project? Because you have been with her for so long and supporting her career. And now all of a sudden the tables have turned and she's there writing with you and writing for your project and helping support you. So what has that sort of transition been like in your relationship?
Oh, she's so supportive and so excited, and like, and she's, anytime. I mean, I was like texting her this morning because I had accidentally glued eyelashes to my hand, and I'm like, this getting thing is really gotta get better.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh yeah, it was a whole thing. But she's so excited. It's freeing for her too. You know what I mean? She gets to get out of like doing writing Ashley stuff, because Ashley is a brilliant genius writer. So she just loves the opportunity to be like, ooh, what are we going to talk about here? Like, she gets another vessel too. So it's been really fun.
That's awesome. And now I have to ask about the cover art for Young and Stupid and the photo that's on there. It's an interesting photo, and I wanted to know, just within your persona of Pillbox Patti, and then also just you personally, what was that photo shoot like? Was that as uncomfortable as it might appear from a viewer looking at it, being the artist actually having to take those types of photos?
No, I wanted to take that picture. That is so me. I'm like, no, I'm like a pee with the door open, smoke. I mean, that is me all the way. So that wasn't uncomfortable at all. I mean, photo shoots are weird anyway. I mean, I'm not a model, so I need a lot of direction and help. But Alexa King is just the most brilliant photographer ever, and she did that shoot. And I had my friends with me, so I really felt like myself, and that's like absolutely. I think my friend Kelly was the one that was like, you should go in that bathroom, y'all should go in there and you should take some pictures. She's like, that's the most you thing ever. And it totally was. So it didn't feel weird to me at all. I mean, that's totally something. I mean, have my friends in there peeing and smoking a cigarette. I mean, that's pretty accurate.
That's hilarious. And now, within this career, I want to ask, I can't remember if it was a social media post or an interview where I saw this, but I saw you say, I can't believe I tricked y'all into liking me. And I was just wondering, within this journey and, as you grow as a songwriter, as an artist, just the feelings inside that you have of maybe that struggle of understanding who you are and who you want to be, but also having this sort of maybe outside pressure of what you feel everyone else thinks you should be and wants you to be.
Sure. Yes. It is the weirdest, most, yeah, there's a lot of things going on. There's you wanting to succeed. There's other people wanting you to succeed. There's some people that maybe don't want you to succeed. There's, you're figuring yourself out. And also, we're creative as writers and artists. We're being creative constantly. And so when you are trying to figure out how you make something that's true to you into some, it shifts things, it moves things around. And it's like, that group of people, those writers are the most that are on my project are literally my dearest friends and the most brilliant people I know. And I love and respect them all so much that I'm like, they like me and they're my friends and they want to write music for me. Like, that is really, I'm just like, I think you guys are so cool. Like, I love that, like, you want to do this with me. It really comes from that. Because, when you get to start making music with people that you think are like, the coolest, it's like humbling and awesome. And it's kind of where I'm at.
That's awesome. And as a songwriter, we have to talk about One Night Standards, because that's a song that really went crazy over the past couple of years. So as a songwriter, what is that experience like of riding the wave of that song and all the amazing things that have happened with it?
That song is so special because that experience is so special with Ashley. That was like our first like hit together. And that whole thing, we're like, can we believe this song of the year? This is crazy. Like, we were just like, what, like, that was awesome. But it was also, I knew, if I was going to do this, if I was going to do the artist thing, I was either about to be so distracted and so busy as a writer, I wasn't going to be able to do it.
Right.
Or I could go all in on the Patti thing. And One Night Standards changed my life in so many ways, but it absolutely allowed for me to be able to do this artist project. I mean, it paid for it. It gave me the confidence. It gave me just enough clout with my publishers where I could be like, okay, I'm just going to write for me for this thing. And they were like, okay. It really like, it was the start of all that. So really grateful for that song.
And it was up for awards, but it also brought you into the spotlight personally. And last year, the Music Row Awards, you won Breakthrough Songwriter of the Year. Now, what is that experience like after, as a songwriter, sort of maybe not being noticed, and then all of a sudden the spotlight is shining down on you as a songwriter?
That was awesome. I couldn't believe I won. I mean, that I still can't believe that. I was like, what? This is crazy. That was obviously like really, really special, and still means like a ton to me, but I'm still almost like kind of can't believe it a little bit, and like even when I see it, it's on like a shelf in my house. I'm like, oh yeah, that really happened. You won a thing. Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, you hope those things happen, and then yeah, it is like nobody even knows you exist, and then all of a sudden people are like, here is this thing, we see you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's super cool. Some people don't like, well, I love awards. I think awards are awesome. I think they're like the most fun. So that was really special.
That's awesome. And so within the Pillbox Patti realm and the music, October 14th is the next project that we'll see from you. So talk about the project. What can we expect? Is it an EP? Is it a full-length album? What can we look forward to?
I will say that it's 8 songs because 8 is a very just important number to me, and it felt right. And sonically, it is. I think some people are going to be surprised by sort of the influences and the sounds and stuff that are in there, because people kind of only knew. They're slowly getting it with these songs that are coming out on this project, but it doesn't really sound like anything else. So it's hard for me to like say what it is. But it's so personal and so real. And it's such a celebration of some of the not so like pretty stuff, that I went through, that I know a lot of people go through. And I mean, it brings joy to me, like coming out of all that. So I hope that that's what it sounds like, is a celebration of some things that maybe you didn't think you should celebrate.
And so how important is this project then, if you're looking back on your life and some of the not so pretty things? Was it almost closure on some things?
Yeah, it was closure for some things, but also it was like the opposite of that for some other things, because it was like, wait, we can go into this and we can talk about this and we can like, what else happened in that crazy time? And it's really like been awesome for my family, like my mom and everything. My mom's like, she's like, oh my God, true. What are we going to do? Like it's like made everybody feel like, hey, like we all have stuff we're not super proud of, or things that we've been embarrassed about. So now, there's some songs obviously that gave me closure, but there are some songs that I'm like, no, let's talk more about. People still are living this every day, so and you don't have to like feel like crap about it. So it's kind of both.
Right. And I think it was Jordan Fletcher I was talking to, who said that basically songwriting is a free therapy session every time you're going in. And so is that sort of what this felt like in writing this album?
Yeah, I mean, way more like fun and boozier, but but yeah, it did it. It was really like cathartic, and really everybody just that group of people just like lifted me up. And so we're like, hopefully we're lifting other people up with this, because that's the point.
Right. And so what does the future look like as you move towards releasing a full project and obviously wanting to promote that and get out there with that, but also continuing to dive in on the songwriter side? What does your time look like coming into the future? Do you know yet?
No, I mean, my time looks like I only look at my calendar for like what I have that day and like the morning of the next day because otherwise I'm like, what? This is crazy. So it is that busy and the crazy enough to where I have to let myself only look at one day at a time. But yeah, it's a lot of shows, a lot of my team is we're all having so much fun with this. And um everybody's ideas are on the table, so it's a lot of shows, it's a lot of stuff like this, meeting people and talking about it, and I'm definitely staying busy with it. So
Absolutely. And so when you look back to getting set to move to Nashville, you have these dreams of being a songwriter. You're not sure what your artistry looks like. And now looking to today and seeing what you have and being a hit songwriter and becoming an artist, do you have time to sort of look back 10, 15 years at where you were and then where you are now and really take that in and internalize it?
yeah, I make time for that every day. I mean, and also when I look at how messy my bedroom is, and I'm like, you are still the same person. You are a hit writer with the room of a 16-year-old. uh, but yeah, no, I think about that all the time. I mean, up until signing that my new publishing deal, which was not that long ago, 2019, I never even had weekends off. I was working. So everything has, that's never lost on me when I'm like, remember when you never even had a day off? Remember when, and now I don't, but it's like, because I'm doing something awesome. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think about that every day when I'm doing something even that scares me or whatever. And I'm like, man, you've had a lot of jobs. Like, how cool is this one? Yeah, and I'm really proud of myself. There's a lot of times in my life I would have never ever thought that I was a person that was capable or lucky enough or whatever to get here. So I think about that almost every day.
That's amazing. And just one last thing, going full circle now with the Durango Songwriters Festival, like how has that changed for you in being able to go back there? I don't know when the last time you had a chance to go back there was, 2019 maybe. I don't know if they've had it since then, but how has that experience changed?
I actually went last October maybe,
Oh,
because there's
okay.
two a year. That is always like, I remember, I mean, I remember going, and me and my friend Chris Galvito is a dear friend of mine. He's a writer and just awesome musician and artist in his own right. But we were talking about it at that expo, that remember when we used to come and we were like, we are obsessed with Al Anderson. Al Anderson is just like our hero. And
Oh,
we were
okay.
like, what's Al Anderson doing? We like text each other like, Al Anderson's having drinks with this guy. And then now we've written with him, and and we love him dearly and we know him personally, but we always laugh about that when we go back to the expo. It's like, wow, how far we've come from like being like nerding out and whatever. And now we're part of this thing and we're trying to help and we're trying to answer questions and, help pull the next people up when we can. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Now there's people who are just starting out who are saying, oh, there's Nicolette, there's Pillbox Patti. Look at what she's doing. Look at who she's talking to.
That's crazy. I don't know if that's happening, but if it is, that's crazy.
Thank you once again so much for listening. And thank you to Pillbox Patti for stopping by and sharing her story. Be sure to keep an eye out for her debut project coming in October. Please also be sure to check us out on social media. We're available on all platforms, so just head over, search Country Music Made Me, and give us a follow. You can also visit countrymusicmademe.com to sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive content. And if you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review, leave us a rating. We would really appreciate it. Thank you so much once again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.